Hello and welcome. Today we're diving into a really fascinating topic, one that comes up a lot in family planning circles. We're going to explore what our source material says about influencing whether you have a baby boy. We'll be breaking down a specific method that actually combines biology and timing with a deep foundation of faith. So let's just get right to it. This is the big question, right? For as long as people have been having babies, they've wondered, is there anything you can do to sway the odds? Well, the material we're looking at today suggests there might be. So let's dig in and see exactly what it proposes. According to our source, the key to all of this isn't some old wives' tale or just random luck. Nope. It argues that the answer is found in the very building blocks of life, specifically the X and Y chromosomes that come from the father. Okay, so to really understand the method we're about to get into, we need a quick, super simple biology lesson. It all boils down to the fact that there are two different kinds of sperm, and they each have a very different job to do. Here's how it breaks down. The woman's egg always carries an X chromosome. The man, on the other hand, produces two types of sperm. Some carry an X and some carry a Y. So if an X sperm meets the egg first, you get a baby girl. If a Y sperm wins the race, you get a baby boy. It's that simple. The entire method we're talking about is built on this one biological fact. Now, this is interesting. Before we even get to the physical how-tos, the source material is really clear about two foundational steps. It presents these as absolutely essential, like the groundwork you have to lay before you even begin. And this is where things shift a little, from just biology to belief. The first step is all about unity, making sure you and your partner are completely on the same page, that you've talked it through and you're in this together. But the second step? The source says it's actually the most important part of the whole process: faith. Specifically, the act of asking for a baby boy through prayer. To really emphasize this point, the source highlights this specific piece of scripture. It's used to underscore the belief that this journey starts not with a calendar or a diet, but with faith. This idea of asking directly is presented as the true foundation for everything else that follows. Okay, so now let's get into the practical side of things. The method laid out here is almost entirely focused on one single factor: timing. It's all about creating the perfect window of opportunity, based on that biology we just talked about. So this timing strategy actually has a name. It's based on what's known as the Shettles method. The whole theory behind it is that the boy sperm and the girl sperm have very different strengths and weaknesses. And the thinking goes, you can use those differences to your advantage by timing things perfectly around ovulation. And this is where it gets really interesting. Think of it like a race. The Y sperm, the one for a boy, is the sprinter. It's super fast, first out of the gate, but it's also more fragile and gets tired quickly. The X sperm, for a girl, is the marathon runner. It's slower and steadier, but it's also way more resilient and can survive for much, much longer. So if the goal is a boy, the strategy is to give that fast sprinter Y sperm the advantage. How do you do that? You make the race as short as possible. That means having intercourse as close as you can to the exact moment of ovulation. On the flip side, the source says to avoid intercourse in the days before ovulation. Why? Because if the sperm are waiting around for the egg, the tough marathon runner X sperm is more likely to outlast the fragile Y sperm. Now, the source material also brings up some modern tweaks to this older method. The focus is still on creating the best possible environment for the Y sperm, but the advice has evolved, particularly when it comes to diet. And this is a really important update. The recommendation has moved away from a practice that is now pretty widely discouraged and instead focuses on a much more natural dietary approach to things. The theory here is that our sprinter Y sperm do better in an environment that's more alkaline. Now, old advice used to suggest douching to try and create this environment, but the source is very clear. This is not recommended. It can actually be harmful. Instead, the current advice is to try and influence your body's pH naturally by eating more alkaline-rich foods. The source also throws in one other consideration, and it's about intercourse position. The thinking is that certain positions might give that speedy Y sperm a bit of a head start on its journey. But it's really important to note that the source itself frames this as more of a common sense tip, something that probably won't hurt to try, but it's not presented as hard science. Okay, so we've walked through the beliefs, the biology, and the practical steps that our source material lays out. But what's the big picture here? What's the main takeaway from all of this? What's really telling is that after laying out this entire method, the source itself brings up the mainstream scientific view. And what does science say? It's a coin toss. It's 50-50. Ultimately, it's left to chance.
So, despite that 50-50 reality, the final conclusion from our source is this. Because these methods are natural and because they won't cause any harm, they're worth a shot for those who want to try. It's presented as a way to be an active participant in the process, all while being guided by a foundation of faith.
And really, that leaves us with a final thought to ponder. For anyone on this journey, it often comes down to a very personal balance. It brings up that big question: in one of the most important decisions of your life, how do you find the right mix between science, faith, and your own personal hopes?